Mr. Chairman.
Clayton Mitchell.
Second call on this terrible piece of legislation that the more I read into it, and let's be honest, it's not a lot to read, to be fair, makes me feel a little bit sick. And I look across the House and I see every single backbencher in the National with their head down, listening to their iPods, not looking like they're interested. But this piece of legislation is seriously going to affect New Zealand for a very, very long time. And I have to say, we've got a proud history of looking after those people that need the support the most. It's shameful what's going on here, and it's going to bite us. And dare I say it, there's an old saying, actually it's not that old, we've changed. The old New Zealand wouldn't do what we've done and what we're going to do right now, and to let the democracy be pulled out from underneath us to get this piece of legislation rammed through under urgency doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. There's a few bills coming up over the next couple of days, and this is one of the bills that we need to be standing up proud to fight against. Absolutely. My parents in 1969 bought their first they bought their first home when the interest rates were 22%. Now, how could you imagine that you could actually pay for a house at 22%? Because now interest rates are only 5% and we can't get there. The difference being, back in 1969, the house that they bought was only $14,000. And their annual income, with my father working, was only $12,000. I have to say that this has changed in every way. Back then it was affordable for people to be able to get into a home. And if you didn't have a job well enough, that was paying you well enough, you could actually get state assistance and actually have a home where you could be brought up and you could actually work and you could actually have a lifestyle. This privatisation, the corporatisation of the state housing industry is a fugazi. It doesn't even exist. What we're trying to do is give wealth and control to corporations. We're not actually looking after our people in this country, which this country has got an obligation to do, Mr. Speaker. This is a sell-off. It's going, gone. We're getting rid of our state-owned assets. We're getting rid of our state-owned housing. Goodness me, we're going to probably privatise our armies. That's the next thing. And I'm sure we've got some insight into some of the stories, the fictional stories that are coming out, that one day this is the direction of the world. It's going to be globalised and corporatised. This is a step in the wrong direction. This is knee-jerk legislation, Mr. Chair, that we are very, very concerned about. One of those concerns is when you're getting advice as a minister, you want to take good advice from the people that know the situation at ground roots. And the people that know what's going on in this country with regards to state housing are the people that are organising those state housing, the corporations that are there to look after people the most. And now all of a sudden this legislation says that the minister does no longer have to listen to what they've got to say. Mr. Speaker, this legislation, now the minister can take advice from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. Business and employment doesn't look after state housing, Mr. Chair. We are concerned that this point 2 on this piece of legislation, the Social Housing Reform, Flexible Purchasing and Remedial Matters Bill, is going to undermine the information that is required to make sound decisions for this government. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We oppose this strongly.
I call Carmel